Greetings, everyone. What's going on? What's going on? This is your brother Chief Flying Eagle, aka Lord Khan, aka the Black Identity Slayer, the man with the plan, the man with the vision, the man that was sent to restore his people, bring back the collective. All right, so let me make sure. I'm also, just so y'all know, I'm going to be on YouTube and TikTok at the same time. So greetings, welcome to the build. I mean, the setup I have is crazy. I'm about to do a lesson, and I have I have a desktop, I have a computer, and I have two phones. So I'm working this out. So bear with me, all right? I got two screens open up. I'm doing the lesson simultaneously. I'm doing it on TikTok, and I'm doing it on YouTube. So both the platforms, get the information. All right. Um, Oh, I've been great. I've been great, Chief. Just putting in that work, man, putting in that work, and that's all. Let me just make sure I turn off notifications on this phone so I don't have any disturbances. But everything is good. Everything is good. Greetings. Welcome to the build. So this is what I'm going to do. Like I said, just to reiterate, right? For those of you on TikTok, I'm not going to do a replay with this. So if you truly want to see the replay, if you missed the live, then you could go on YouTube and see it because I'm actually streaming on YouTube right now live as we speak. But the recording is going to be on YouTube. The purpose of this lesson for me is to always put things in perspective. And perspective is key because a lot of times people just tend to do things based on emotions. They don't go into laws, they don't go into treaties, they don't do none of that. Last night I did a lesson on treaties. I did that on TikTok. And as promised, I did put some of the treaties. I have over 200 and something treaties, almost 300 treaties that the United States signed with American Indians. Of course, all of them have been ratified and they don't honor any of them, but it's good to at least have them. So as promised, I'm putting them on the site, on our Republic site, ongwehongwe.org. So when I'm done with the lesson, I'll give you guys the website so you could go check it out as well if you would like to be part of the Republic, because that's what we are doing. We are stepping up doing things the correct way, the way things are supposed to be done. But for you to truly get an understanding as to what transpired, what happened, you have to go back to the beginning. And that's what we are going to do. Instead of all the speculations and just following people that make you think they know what they are talking about. All right. And this is it. It actually is. So if you're on YouTube, go ahead and share the information. If you can, post it on different platforms, bring some more people in. If you're on TikTok, I appreciate you reposting and sharing the live and tapping the screen so we could build the algorithm on that. You could also do that on YouTube. Let's get the algorithm going to get more people on here. All right. Because this is just too important. Give me a second. Let me just make sure this is good on TikTok. There you go. Gratitude. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. You guys on TikTok, you're already seeing the screen. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here on hold on for a second, on YouTube so we could get into that. All right. So this is a two-part lesson. All right. The first part is going all the way back to 1492. And then I'm going to conclude with the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with Morocco and explain exactly what that is, because there's a lot of misconception when it comes to that treaty. And all I'm just saying is I like putting things in perspective unless anybody could show otherwise. Okay. All right. So you know what? I may have to go on YouTube on that phone. Thank you for sharing the live on TikTok. YouTube, do me a favor, go ahead and show some love so we are able to get as many people on here as possible. All right. Give me 1 second. Okay, where is this here? Hold on. Here we go. All right, cool. All right, beautiful. So we good. All right, both platforms are good. The lesson can be seen on both screens. Let me just make sure. All right, beautiful. So like I said, we're going to take it from the beginning. We're going to go all the way to 1492. And this is a lesson that I put together last night. All right. I stayed up all night putting that lesson together. And as you could see, please work with me because like I said, I'm on two different computers. I'm live on YouTube and I'm live on TikTok on two different platforms, two different computers. Plus I got two phones. All right. One on YouTube, one on TikTok, a computer on YouTube, a computer on TikTok. All right. Making sure both platforms get the love at the same time because I definitely don't want to abandon my YouTube brothers and sisters because they was there with me from the very beginning. So I have to keep showing them love. All right. So from 1492 to today, how European empires and the United States claimed jurisdiction in the Americas and how original indigenous American Indian lost unfolded. All right. Let me repeat the title of the lesson once more. From 1492 to today, how European empires and the United States claimed jurisdiction in the Americas and how original indigenous / American Indian land lost unfolded. Whenever I teach, and you see in my documents, whenever I use the word indigenous, it's very, very important to me at least that I put original in front of indigenous. And you see, because the reason being, when I teach, I like to teach things in its proper perspective. A lot of people deal with emotions, like I said, and there's nothing wrong with emotions if they are backed by facts and law. But most people just react, and I don't do that. The reason why I put original in front of indigenous is because indigenous has two meanings. Whether it was the United Nations or whatever the case is, due to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, they never clearly defined what or whom indigenous people are. They left it up to the individual via self-determination. So how do you know the difference? When you look at the etymology of the word indigenous, it has two meanings. One means born and the other means original. So therefore, Native Americans are born, they are indigenous. So when I hear people on the internet talking about, well, Native Americans are not indigenous, and man, listen, shut the hell up. They are indigenous. They are only born indigenous, and we are original indigenous. Okay? And original indigenous is equivalent to American Indian. You see the difference? Native Americans and American Indians are two complete different political identities, two different people. And that's why I put original in front of indigenous. Therefore, it's equivalent to American Indian. Halito, Lady Rising Star. So like I said, let's break this down. Give me a time to navigate both computers. So please just be patient. And I promise you, I have a banging lesson for you as usual. All right. The only way Chief know how to do it. You did. All right. So let's rock. We're going to go all the way, like I said, to 1492 and how everything unfolded. And we're going to look at the treaties. We're going to look at the doctrines. We're going to look at all of that. All right. A comprehensive source-based teaching lesson. We're going to go to the timeline plus the treaty and the breakdown and the key legal doctrines. Because until we go to the beginning, we are not going to figure this out. Like I said, everything is just based on speculation and everybody's spewing information they haven't well researched. And that's why I come in with the clarity. And that's why we cannot just be all over the place. Everybody just want to create a nation and think it's going to work. You feel me? Now, everybody have to go through the pitfalls and do what they got to do. Guess what? Back in 2016, 2015, I was in the same boat, just thinking you could just create nations and just do stuff. Now, I had to learn how to do things properly. So I tell people I've been doing this. But the ancestors have given me wisdom. They have given me spiritual discernment on how to structure things the proper way so we could move in a certain way and get things accomplished. So I'm not knocking anybody who's doing now what I was doing in 2016. I'm not knocking them. I'm just letting people know I'm way ahead of the game. All right? No disrespect to anybody. All right? So let's rock. So once again, I prepared this January 21st, 2016, and that, of course, by me, Chief Flying Eagle, and we're going to get into the build right now. And like I said, I'm on two computers, so I'm going to have to navigate both of those screens at the same time. Important note, this document is educational, history, and civics content, not legal advice. It summarizes major laws, doctrines, wars, and treaties that shaped colonial and U.S. expansion and explains the recurring patterns of American Indian disposition. Nothing has changed. Everything that we have experienced from the inception of the colonial system, we are still dealing with that today. All right. And I'm going to show that and let you see exactly what I'm talking about. So I broke down the lesson in 10 modules. All right. And we're going to go over those modules and make sure everyone get, once again, a clear understanding of what took place from 1492. So from 1 to 10, the first module, we're going to talk about 1492 to 1494, the catalyst. In other words, what sprung everything into motion, the foundation. That was the papal bulls, the doctrine of discovery, the treaty of Tordesillas. Number 2, 1500s, the first control system, the conquest, the forced labor, Encomienda, and the Requirimiento, 1513. Now, if I'm butchering some of the words, man, forgive me, all right? Because it just is what it is, all right? Number 3, 1500s to 1700s, the conquest of the empires in the Caribbean and the Americas, Spain, Portugal, Britain, France, the Netherlands, all right? We were going up against, literally against empires. And I don't know why we think today in 2026, when there is actually more technical advancements, right? We think that we could just fight these wars and these battles individually. That's what I can't fathom. I mean, hey, but do what you feel you have to, right? I am here about the collective because I get it, all right? Number 4, 1763, the Treaty of Paris and the shift of imperial dominance, North America plus the Caribbean implications, all right? And of course, we know that the reason why I separated the two is because even if the Caribbean is in North America, it was the introduction into the North Gate. You feel me? So I like to put plus to make a distinction and show people that's where it all started. All right. But all the islands in the Caribbean are in North America. Okay. Now, let's go into number 5, 1763 to 1823, proclamation, the line. Then the U.S. discovery becomes domestic property law. And we have a court case to verify that, Johnson versus McIntosh. When I get to that point, I'll explain that to you. How the doctrine of discovery literally was, how would I put it? It was renamed, so to speak, right? It was renamed, so to speak, and through the court case, gave the United States what's called domestic property law. So that became the new doctrine of discovery in the United States. It was just disguised. So everything that we think, it is not, because we are still living under the doctrine of discovery according to the United States. All right. Number 6, Louisiana, Haiti. All right. And we are going back to the it's pronounced Fontainebleau, 1762, San Ildefonso, 1800, the Haitian Revolution and the Louisiana Purchase, 1803. We're going to talk about that. Number 7, we're going to talk about Florida, Spain, Britain, Spain, United States, and the Adams-Onis Treaty of 1819. We are also going to talk in Module 8 about Mexico, California, the U.S./Mexico, the war, and the Treaty of Guadalupe, Hidalgo, 1848. We are also going to go into Alaska, all right, which was actually Russian America, and the Alaska Purchase in 1867. And number 10, the final module, we're going to talk about 1830, the present, the machine of disposition inside the U.S., removal, allotment, the courts, the policies, the shift, modern rights framework. So as you can see, I've put together a comprehensive lesson to break down what transpired since 1492 on our ancestral land. All right, here we go. So module 1, 1492 to 1494, the catalyst, what sprung things into motion. When Europeans arrived in the Americas, and when we say Europeans, I want to make this very, very clear. We're not talking about the pale-skinned European. We are not talking about the people we identify as white today. They were not the ones who came here in 1492. These people were, what if you saw them today, you would actually call them black. All right. Of course, we know black is a misqualification of brown-skinned people. The point remains, and the fact remains, these people were people of color. So when we speak of Europeans, once again, from an origin perspective, we are talking about people who look just like us. So when the Europeans arrived in the Americas, they did not begin by recognizing indigenous nations as equal sovereigns. Okay, the goal was to come into a land, not because the land was new, but because the purpose of colonization is to make new, rename, reclaim, and take ownership. You feel me? So immediately they put structures in place that would not recognize the indigenous people the nations as sovereign equals. Instead, the Iberian expansion, all right, was framed by the church backed legal theories that authorized Christian monarchs to claim lands and peoples outside Christendom. So today, as you can see, the majority, if not most, well, yeah, that's what majority means, our people are Christians, not knowing exactly where it came from. You became Christians due to colonization. And I promise you, it wasn't, let me come to your house and teach you about Jesus. No, it wasn't that. It was done with a sword. It was done through pillage. It was done through RAPE. It was done through MURDER. It was done through KILLINGS. It was done through fraud. Go read the Bible properly and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, because that's what they are actually explaining to you, what happened to indigenous people across the world, particularly in the Americas. It has nothing to do with a sky daddy, but you cannot tell our people nothing about Christianity. You feel me? So they are still colonized. Before 1492, our people were not Christians. And even if they thought they came from Africa, Africans were not Christians either. And that's facts over feeling. Most people talk about, well, Christianity started in Ethiopia. No, it didn't. But anyway, that's another lesson. Okay? So just to go over the first module, when Europeans, and once again, may I reiterate, I say Europeans as the original Europeans, right? The people who look like us. When they arrived in the Americas, they did not begin recognizing our ancestors and our people as equal sovereigns. Instead, the Iberian expansion, key word, Iberian expansion, these people were people of color. It was framed by the church and backed by legal theories, not law, but theories. Though they put those things in place because they felt that they had the power to do that. So it was backed by legal theories, not lawful standing. Only legal theories that authorized Christian monarchs to claim lands and peoples outside of Christendom. So if you were not a Christian, then you became subject of the Christian ideology, all right, or Christendom ideology. This created an early papal layer of legitimacy between European powers. So most people don't realize that the European powers were actually working together. They are all interconnected by blood or by marriage. All these people are actually related. So as you could see, it's an extension of what took place in the US through all the presidents. The majority of them are related some way, somehow. We are still living under those colonial system. It never changed. It was just disguised. Okay? So therefore, the key building blocks, we are going to talk about the papal bull, how it all started, the framework, the foundation, if I may. Here we go. Papal bull, Inter Cetera of 1493. Inter Cetera is one of the best known papal bulls. They had a few others, but it was the catalyst, like I said, the best known, linked to the later idea of the doctrine of discovery. In it, Pope Alexander VI grants the Spanish crown rights to the lands found to be found west of set line, so long as lands were not already possessed by the Christian prince or a Christian prince. In layman terms, what does that mean? It means that when they came into the Americas, any land, all right, that they found, keyword found, west of a certain line, you feel me? An imaginary line that they created. As long as the lands were not owned and possessed by a Christian prince, that land was open for discovery and ownership via the Christian ideology. Okay? And I have to keep mentioning Christian because that's the framework that literally set all that off. And our people are still indoctrinated. That's why they had to put, even today, wherever you go in the hood, you will see 1,000 churches on every corner, especially, and I could only speak about Brooklyn because I know it. Okay? It happened. And when I say it happened, I mean that every corner has a church because we are still colonized by Christendom. All right. Christianity had nothing to do with taking you to heaven. Christianity was about coming to take your land, raping our ancestors, taking everything we had, enslaving our people. That's what it was about. Okay. How can I prove that? Well, go look at the Mormons. Today they come to your doors, the Church of Latter-day Saints, they come to your doors and they want to introduce you to Jesus. But they will never teach you, well, this is how we actually gain, some type of, sovereignty in your land. We fought your ancestors. We unalived them. They will not tell you that. You feel me? But they want to introduce you to Jesus. I'm just saying, okay? This is not an attack on anybody. This is just speaking the truth. It is what it is. So therefore, Inter Cetera, the short excerpt. This is one of the excerpts from the Inter Cetera. Okay, it says, I quote, "We give, grant, and assign in perpetuity to you." What does perpetuity means? It means into time immemorial. It never ends. So therefore, we are giving you the permission. We are granting you. So they became the grantor. If you grant something, that is trust language. What does it mean? It denotes that a trust is being created. So therefore, they became the grantor. And therefore, there was a trustee. And then there's a beneficiary. The only problem is we were supposed to be the beneficiaries, but obviously that's not the case. That is not the case. We are no longer the beneficiaries. We never have been. Okay? So with that being said, due to the Inter Cetera, it's saying that we grant you and assign into perpetuity forever all the islands and mainlands found and to be found. So it's not just what they found, but they're saying anything that we find in the future, we are making sure that through Christendom, we have the authority to take it and it's ours. And of course, I'm giving sources. The source of the Inter Cetera translation PDF, you could find that on doctrineofdiscovery.org. So I'm not just here talking. I'm giving you facts. I'm giving you researchable information that you yourself could do your own due diligence. All right? Let us proceed. Now, this is the teaching point and lesson I want you to learn here. This language is not indigenous law. It is not indigenous law. It is a European Christian authorization to claim dominion, later used to justify conquest and extraction. So our people literally did not have a voice, so to speak, in making the ultimate decision. It wasn't an agreement. Our ancestors did not give consent to turn over the Americas to the Christian colonizers. You feel me? So therefore, it wasn't done by indigenous law in our indigenous languages. No. It is a European Christian authorization to claim dominion, later used to justify conquest and extraction. B, the Treaty of Tordesillas, 1494. Spain and Portugal then formalized an imperial division of overseas lands via the Treaty of Tordesillas. It drew a demarcation line, an imaginary line, and treated vast non-European territories as an assignable sphere of influence. Okay? Teaching point, lesson here. Early international law, here is law between empires, not consent from American Indian nations or people. So none of these laws, once again, it was not done with the consent of our ancestors or the nations that we had. Those were literally international laws that were being implemented, and pretty much they were between the European empires and not our ancestors. I have to make that very clear. All right? Let's go to C. Doctrine of discovery as a later legal doctrine. The doctrine of discovery is the name commonly given to a cluster of European ideas that claim Christian discovered received a superior rights against other European powers, while original indigenous people were treated as limited rights of occupancy. In the US, this doctrine becomes explicit in 1823, and I'm going to break that down more in module 5 as we continue the lesson. You feel me? So let's read that again. C, doctrine of discovery as the larger legal doctrine. The doctrine of discovery is the name commonly given to a cluster of European ideas that claim Christian discoveries, received superior rights against other European powers, because these people in Europe, they were fighting internally amongst themselves when they had their sort of like their Reconstruction era, so to speak. All right, they were breaking up religions into different sects, and they had a lot of religious wars, and therefore Christianity became the most dominant after a lot of bloodshed. So I don't know why people think Christianity is going to take you to heaven. No, it was based and built on the premise of bloodshed. RAPE, unaliving people. It's right there in the Bible. And then you tell me, well, God could do it because he is God. No. If God is good all the time and all the time God is good, God does not just unalive people just because he feels like doing it and sending people to RAPING people. But you cannot tell people the truth because they don't want to hear the truth. It is what it is. But I know a lot of you are ready for this information, and that's why I continue to teach the information. Okay? So I don't think I'm wasting my time. Let us go to module 2. Let me go here on YouTube, making sure everybody's on point with this information as well. All right? Peace and welcome to the build. Welcome to the build. All right? I'm on 2 platforms, so I'm not ignoring anybody. All right? So I have to go back and forth. You feel me? So I'm not taking any questions right now. It's just strictly a lesson presenting information for educational purposes only. All right? Now, let's go to the 1500s. The first control in North America, plus Caribbean, plus Spanish America. The Caribbean was the earliest testing ground for conquest, plantation economics, forced labor, and imperial rivalry. Spanish systems combined religion, law, and force to recognize original indigenous life for tribute, labor, and conversion. That was the goal. Indigenous people, all right? Labor and conversion. That's what it was about. Either way, our people did not give consent. So the Caribbean was the testing ground. The Caribbean was the project, so to speak. Let us see how it worked out in the Caribbean before we expand. Because once again, colonization is about expansion. Okay? So the Caribbean was the testing ground to see how everything else would work. So A, encomienda, early 1500s. Encomienda, literally entrusting. That's what it means. Literally entrusting was a legal system that granted Spaniards the right to receive labor or tribute from indigenous communities. In theory, encomenderos owed protection and Christian instruction. In practice, it often operated like coercive forced labor. It could have not been based because they were coming at it from a religious perspective. So they couldn't just give it to the people straight out as, man, listen, we coming to take your shit. All right. So it had to be done through coercion, but forced labor to a certain extent. You feel me? Where it does not really seem like slavery, if that makes sense. They were very tact about it. What historians and legal summaries emphasize, encomienda was a crown-recognized legal institution for tribute labor from original indigenous people, often abusive in practice. It grew out of earlier Spanish systems or tribute during the Reconquista. So like I said before, they were going through their own battles in Europe, and all they did was they just brought it into the Americas. All right. B, laws of Burgess, 1512, 1513, and regulation of indigenous labor. The laws of Burgess were among the earliest Spanish regulations about original indigenous labor and living arrangements in the Americas. They did not end coercion. They attempted to structure it So every time our people would grow to resist the colonial powers, they would literally trick them into thinking they're giving them solutions, but all they did was restructure what they were doing and disguise it, but accomplish the same goal that they came here to do, which is to rob, steal, unalive, take control of the land. And they were very successful with that. Okay? And the Library of Congress summary of the laws of Burgess, and here's a short excerpt from that. The first law called for the creation of dwelling spaces for Indians near the Spaniards. So that was the goal. All right? We are going to create some laws, and we are going to say that the Spaniards could live within close proximity of the Indians, even if not in their immediate territory. And mind you, these people looked like us. So imagine what I'm talking about back in the 1500s. So it was easy to play on different indigenous tribes and nations, play both sides. Okay? Making you think, well, we're going to give you your space. We're going to give you your freedom, but we got to stay close by just in case. And that's just putting it in layman terms, right? And I'm giving you the source of that. That's the Library of Congress. It's library blog in 2012. So you could do your own research and go look it up yourself. All right. Let's go to C. Here we go. El Requerimiento, 1513. The read it and then war demand. El Requerimiento, 1513, was designed to be read by Spaniards to indigenous communities, announcing Christian authority and Spanish claims. Pay attention to what I'm saying. It was read to our ancestors in Spanish. I hope that registers. It was read to our ancestors in Spanish by the Christians. If indigenous people refused submission, the Spaniards claimed it justified war and enslavement, because all our ancestors could have done was, regardless of what they were reading, they couldn't understand it because they didn't speak Spanish. But how they knew it was not righteous or it was moral, it was based on how they were treating them. And our ancestors refused to submit. So therefore the Spaniards say, well, hey, we told you what it was. It's actually in law and it's written. So therefore we're going to claim by war and enslavement. But our ancestors never conceded. So here's an excerpt from the Requerimiento. I quote, "We ask and require." You see that? They are asking, but at the same time they require. Acknowledge the church as the ruler and superior of the whole world. Not just the Americas, but the entire world. That's what it says. So therefore it gave them permission, religious Christian dome permission, to go into all parts of the world and do what they're doing because it's justified in the eyes of their God. And you trying to tell me I should make that God my God. Like I told y'all before, y'all could keep y'all God. I don't want it. Not that one. Anyway, here's the source. I'm giving you sources as well. ECDA, Northeastern Exhibit. All right, translation excerpt. Teaching tool. The lesson learned here is, this is a key example of paper conquest, paper genocide. A document read in Spanish to people who often could not understand it, used to claim lawful jurisdiction for invasion. Somebody please let it make sense. Let it make sense, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on TikTok. Let it make sense. It's like me coming into your home, right? You don't speak Dutch, and I'm here giving you a contract in Dutch because I came first as a friend. So your gestures to me would be friendly. So you're here speaking Dutch. I don't understand a damn thing. All of a sudden, when I acquiesce to what you're saying in Dutch, okay, or at least, consent is implied because I did not resist because I don't know what you're talking about. But then you in my home and I'm realizing that, oh, you taking my bed, I got to sleep on the floor. I cannot go in the refrigerator and drink my juice. You know what I'm saying? I got to drink pipe water. So I'm starting to realize, nah, something ain't right with this. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to fight back because I want my bed back. I want to drink my own damn juice. And you're telling me, you're showing me a piece of paper talking about, hey, bro, I mean, here's the here's the Dutch contract. That's exactly what happened to our people. You feel me? So therefore, that's what they use to claim lawful jurisdiction for their invasion. Okay, and that's breaking it down in layman terms. Let's go to module 3. We're talking about 1500s to the 1700s. And of course, I'm giving you a synopsis, a summary of what transpired. All right. 1500s to 1700s. The contest of empires, South and North America. From the 1500s through the 1700s, the Americas became a battleground of competing imperial systems. Control was often expressed through ports, forts, and trade routes, especially sugar islands in the Caribbean, while original indigenous nations continued to govern most of the interior territories. So if you read a lot of historical books, especially books that dealt with the Negros de Terra, you'll realize that our people still maintained control from a governance perspective within the interior. All right. So the colonial system, of course, once you come in, you come from out to within. So the interior was still being controlled by indigenous people. But the outskirts, the outer regions were already being infiltrated by the colonial system. The same way before they came into the US, what is now known as the US. We had to fight them in Florida. We had to fight them in Texas. We had to fight them in Mexico. You see what I'm saying? We had to fight them in Canada before they actually came into what's now called the mainland. So when I tell people, a lot of you on the internet don't know history and what y'all talking about, and y'all want to separate indigenous people, y'all better be careful what y'all do, man, because the ancestors are not going to tolerate certain things from a lot of you idiots, because you have no idea what happened. You just come into some information and you're on the internet blowing smoke. Go do some due diligence. Go do some research. And stop trying to displace indigenous people, of original indigenous people, from their ancestral land because you have a colonial mindset. Because I know you have a colonial spirit. And I'm asking the unrighteous ancestors to deal with your asses. You feel me? I'm not playing this game. I wasn't sent here to play games. So I'm coming from every angle, but the best way to catch you is in the spiritual realm. I'm going to make sure you are destroyed in the spiritual realm. And that is not a physical threat. It's a spiritual threat. I don't play that. You feel me? And I'm dead ass about that. Trust me. You feel me? All right, cool. So anyway, the 1500s through the 1700s, the Americas became the battleground. It was a battleground, intercontinental battleground, competing imperial systems. Control was often expressed through ports, the forts, and the trade routes, especially sugar islands in the Caribbean, while our ancestors continued to govern the interior territories of their ancestral land. Let us proceed. Let's go to the major contenders and their typical zones of control. We go to Spain. Early dominance in the Caribbean, Mexico, Central America, much of South America, also Florida and parts of the Southwest. Okay, that was controlled by Spain. Portugal, Brazil, supported by the Tordesillas division framework. Then we have France, Canada, St. Lawrence, the Great Lakes, the Mississippi corridor. Well, the wealthy Caribbean colonies such as Santo Domingo or Saint Dominique, Hispaniola, which is now called Haiti and Dominican Republic. Then we had Britain, Atlantic seaboard, the colonies, strong Caribbean presence, rising naval dominance. Then we have the Netherlands, okay, commercial empire, outposts, and trading networks in the Caribbean, and the gateway to the North American mainland. And that's why I have to keep stressing that. You feel me? A lot of you are brainwashed and lost. You dig? And you claim to be descendants of slaves from Africa, but you want to claim territory on American ancestral land. You cannot do that if you're an African descendant. You are not an American. You're a descendant of an African born in America. That makes you an African. You feel me? So stop trying to separate Caribbean people from America when the Caribbean is in North America and is the gateway to the mainland. The people who fought to prevent them from coming into the mainland, which is now called the United States. And I have to make that very clear. So let us look at all the countries for the most part, the major players. We're talking about Spain, Portugal, France, Britain, the Netherlands. That's just 5 of them. And we also have other players that came into the picture later. All right? So here goes the teaching point on the lesson here. Empires often claimed sovereignty on maps before they had meaningful control on the ground and long before indigenous nations consented. So what did they do? Right? Everything was done on paper. On paper. So they drew maps. All right? We're going to lay our claim because our ancestors did not have any reasons to draw maps of no damn land. We didn't have to. Why? There was no need for that. So when the invaders came, they came already prepared with a plan. How they're going to do things, how they're going to accomplish things. So therefore, they drew maps. And of course, if you're going to draw the maps and you say, well, this is mine, this is yours, I'm going to rename places. That's how they did that. Even before our people gave any form of consent, these people had already taken control in theory, on paper genocide, before it actually become on a principle of control on the land. All right. Let's go into module 4. Module 4. Here we go. 1773, the Treaty of Paris and imperial jurisdiction. All right. The jurisdiction swap. The 7 Years' War, called the French and Indian War in the British North America, ends with the Treaty of Paris of 1763. This treaty is a major turning point because it rearranges imperial claims across North America. So it was a 7-year-long war. All right. So it's a 7-year-long war. 7 years fighting. And what ended that long war was a treaty. Everybody was like, okay, boom, man, listen, we're out here fighting each other for this huge continent. Let us chill. I think there's enough bloodshed. Let's kind of chill and see how we could work things out. That's what the Treaty of Paris was about in 1763. All right. Now think about it, right? All of this was going on. Think about what was happening in Europe at the same time. It wasn't just religious persecution. It wasn't just families fighting each other. It wasn't just them recovering from the Black Plague and different diseases in Europe. It was also the barbaric slave trade, okay, so-called black men enslaving so-called white people. But you are telling me that they had the time to do all of that to get 12 million slaves from Africa. Let it make sense. Let it make sense. When we fought wars all the way up to all the way up to 1923, that ended up in the US, right before 1924 Indian Citizen Act. Let it make sense. So that's why I tell people this whole African narrative was put in place on paper. It only happened on paper. It never happened for real. The same way they took control and power and jurisdiction of the maps on paper. All right, let's rock. What the treaty did in practice. France relinquished major claims in Canada to Great Britain. Spain and France made separate adjustments. Florida's status changes hands in this era. These are state-to-state transfers of imperial claims. Original indigenous nations and people were not equal contracting parties in the sovereignty swap. So once again, our ancestors were left out from all these deals that were being made. What am I showing so far? I'm showing a constant trend that's happening over and over again, and our people were left out. All that was done without the consent of our ancestors. Okay? So here goes the treaty. I'm going to give you an excerpt from the Treaty of Paris. It says, I quote, France cedes and guarantees to Great Britain, Canada, with all its dependencies. Okay? Here's the teaching point here, and I'm giving you the source. Avalon Project, Yale Law School text of treaty. The treaty mostly trades European title among empires. It is only trading titles. You know, like how you do a quick claim deed, you own a house and you want to give somebody the title and you sign it over to them. That was taking place. All right? It is not original indigenous people selling their land. It wasn't our ancestors selling our land, people. It is the empires swapping claims. Once again, let me give you an example. I'm in my home. I have a few guests in my home. I invite 2 French friends and 2 Dutch friends. I got mad food for days. I got all types of amenities in my home, right? And all of a sudden, they come and they're fighting each other for what's in my house. I'm not giving nobody consent. You feel me? And you decide to stop fighting and create a new lease. You didn't even talk to the landlord. You just create an in-house lease and say, well, okay, cool. You're French, I'm Dutch. We're going to stop fighting and we're going to take over chief joint. And then you come in to read that to me in another language. And if I don't agree, then you're going to enslave me. So the enslavement of the people were already on the land, being enslaved in their own land. They did not come from Africa. And people will try to convince me of that, but trust me, it didn't happen. When you know better, you know better. Okay? That's just the bottom line. Because there have been too many lies told. So why am I supposed to believe that lie? Let's go to Module 5. Module 5. 1763 to 1823, Proclamation Line and U.S. discovery becomes domestic law. Give me a second. I'm getting a little hot. Let me take off this sweatsuit. All right, cool. Here we go. Module 5, 1763 to 1823, Proclamation Line and U.S. discovery becomes domestic law. A, the post-1763 boundary idea, right? After 1763, Britain issues the Royal Proclamation of 1763, drawing a line meant to limit colonial settlement and establish rules for acquiring original indigenous lands. Generally, only the Crown could authorize purchases. This shows Britain recognized original indigenous land rights in a constrained way while keeping ultimate control in the Crown. And that's why last night I showed y'all the treaty that was done in Virginia of 1667 with King Charles II, with the kings and queens in Virginia. They allowed them to have certain control, but the Crown kept the ultimate control power. In other words, I came into your house. I took over your house. I'm still giving you some type of sovereignty, but just so you know, don't get out of pocket because I took control of your shit. In layman terms. All right? Boom. Let's go to B. Johnson versus McIntosh. That's a well-documented Supreme Court case, right? Johnson versus McIntosh, 1823. Go look it up. Discovery became the U.S. property doctrine. So like I said before, the doctrine of discovery, even if it was becoming less significant to a certain extent, because by 1823, I mean, practically, they had already taken almost of the whole of the Americas, right? But what they did was they disguised the doctrine of discovery. So therefore, they had a new Supreme Court rule by Justice John Marshall And it states that the discovery gave the discovering government, which is the United States, the exclusive rights to extinguish original titles of occupancy. That is what people call allodial titles. You feel me? So what that new court rule did, I'm giving y'all facts. You see, I have to show the transition of how everything took place. And it's the only way we have to understand the puzzle and what happened and what needs to be done to reverse that situation. We cannot just be out here willy-nilly, just doing anything because we feel we can. No, you can't do that. So therefore, in 1823, the United States Supreme Court, remember, what are the laws of the land, treaties, and what? The Constitution, right? So therefore, the Supreme Court of the United States in 1823, the judge was Justice John Marshall, and he states that discovery, as in the doctrine of discovery, they just left out the word doctrine. You see how that works? Like when they used to call our people, copper colored, and they dropped the copper, and all of a sudden colored, and they dropped the colored, and all of a sudden you're black, and that makes you African. My people, it is still part of colonization. I hope you get it. So therefore, discovery gave the discovering government. It clearly states that in the court case. So we know that the United States is a discovering government. The exclusive rights to extinguish original indigenous title of occupancy. This looks like the doctrine of discovery in U.S. law. That is the version or their version of the doctrine of discovery. And that's in an official Supreme Court case. All right. And I give you resources as well. Johnson versus McIntosh, 1823 short excerpt. Discovery gave an exclusive right to extinguish the Indian title of occupancy. So even if our people own the land, all right, they took away, when they started creating allodial titles, they took away those titles. And from those titles, they gave land patents when they were given allotments. So when you do your genealogy, you may find that your ancestors had land patents. Now here's the trick. Here's the key factor in this, right? Because you have the land patents in today's day and age, if you don't have the deed, then practically, if you cannot show that that land was taken from your family or your people unlawfully via fraud, then the land patent is irrelevant. And I'm not here to discourage people on the internet talking about land patents and I found land patents and you think you own the land. No, you don't. You see, you don't. And that's why I like to bring things and put it in its proper perspective. Sometimes it may not be what you like to hear, but I promise you it's what you need to hear because I want to teach you the truth. So you know how to restructure the way you fight and the things that you do. So you would have more of an outcome of a victory opposed to disappointments. So yes, you may have the land patent. The question remains, do you have the land deed? Because the patent establishes original, what we call occupancy or jurisdiction or ownership to a certain extent. However, that land patent could have been something that somewhere in your ancestral line, it was sold, right? It could have been given as a gift. You did. It could have been a family member that actually gave it up without you knowing. You did. Also, it could have been taken by fraud. So the good thing about the land patent is at least you have a place to start to make some inquiries, right? But it all boils down to, do you have the deed of that land? In other words, who own it right now? Not who owned it before, who own it right now. You see, all that is part of discovery. Same thing with colonization, right? We know you own the land before, but we're talking about in 2026, who own it? It ain't you. I hope that makes sense. All right? All right, cool. So I gave you a source. That is the U.S. Supreme Court excerpt from Justia or Justia. All right. Teaching point, lesson learned. This is one of the clearest moments where a European doctrine becomes the US domestic legal infrastructure, my people. You see what happened? They all work together. People think there's a left wing and a right wing. No, they all work together, people. We are still living under the construct of colonization, the doctrine of discovery. It was just relabeled in that court case, Johnson versus McIntosh in 1823, which literally took the rights of occupancy, the title rights of our people, and gave it to the United States Corporation. So we have a lot of work to do. This is not just clear cut. Well, I'm American Indian, I'm gonna get back my snow. That's no, people are teaching y'all illusions. It doesn't happen that way. Number 6, Louisiana and Haiti, what is now called Haiti, IET. Okay, what's going on here? Hold on for a second. What in the hell? Like, are you serious? What, yo, hold on for a second. For some, whatever reason, all of a sudden my screen is just started bugging. Like, seriously. What is going on? Give me a second here. Hold on. I'm not even sure why that happened on my other computer. Let's hide this. What, this is putting this in Chinese, man. What in the Abraham and mother of Joseph? Whoa, hold on. Give me a second, guys. Something just happened here and I don't know what the hell it is. Let me just stop. Let me close this out and go back here, and I'm going to stop sharing here for a second. I got to stop sharing. How do I stop sharing this? I tell you, man, every time you're doing something, it's always something want to come, just try to throw you off. You feel me? But y'all can't stop it though. That energy cannot stop it. Give me a second, TikTok. Let me just make sure YouTube is good. All right. It's like my computer just had a mind of its own and it just started bugging out. It showed me stuff in Chinese. Me no speaking no Chinese now. Okay. Hold on for a second. Boom. Let's get back to that. Boom. Let's get back to that. Give me a second. Let me make sure we good. All right, cool. All right, boom. We back on point. All right. So let me continue with this. All right. So let's talk about Louisiana, right? Module 6, Louisiana and IET, what is now called Haiti. Caribbean War reshapes the U.S. All right. Louisiana's transfer to the United States was not a single event. It was literally a sequence of events that led to the purchase of Louisiana, which is what's now, a territory of the United States. Okay. It was a chain of state-to-state deals influenced by the Caribbean War, especially the Haitian Revolution and France's failed attempt to restore plantation rule in Saint Dominique, which is pretty much the combination of Haiti and Dominican Republic. It was called Saint Dominique, apart from being called Hispaniola. Okay. So we have a treaty, which let's go to A, the Treaty of Fontainebleau, 1762, France to Spain. Fontainebleau, 1762, the short excerpt, this is what it says. We renew and confirm the cession of Louisiana and of New Orleans. So they're relinquishing their authority, all right, from France to Spain, right? So the source, we have the treaty's transcript, Emerson Kent. You could go look that up yourself. All right. Let's go to B. Third Treaty of San Ildefonso, 1800, Spain to France. All right. So as you could see, they were going back and forth. We had a treaty, France to Spain, and then we have another treaty, Spain to France. Go look all these things up. You could look it up yourself. And that was to the retrocession, okay, because there was a cession before in the Fontainebleau, which was from France to Spain. And then again, it was from Spain to France. And that treaty in 1800, Article 3, here's a short excerpt. It says, retrocede to the French Republic, the colony of the province of Louisiana. And I give you a source, the Avalon Project, Yale Law School text. All right. All that information is there. You could look it up yourself. Now let's go to C, Louisiana Purchase. That came from the Treaty of 1803 from now France to the US. So we went from Spain to France, no, from France to Spain, then from Spain to France, and now from France to the United States. And all that stuff is being done on paper. Our people had nothing to do with that whatsoever. It was strictly done on paper. So the 1803 treaty, it cedes Louisiana to the United States and includes guarantees about incorporation and protection of inhabitant rights. Louisiana Purchase, 1803, short excerpt. And I quote, the inhabitants of the city territory shall be incorporated into the Union of the United States. So in other words, you come to my house. I'm gonna give you another example. You come to my house. I'm running things in my house, but you have the French and the Dutch in my house, or the French and the US in my house, doing all type of deals behind my back. And all of a sudden, one day I came home and you were telling me, guess what? You know that your name is no longer on the lease. We now have the lease, and therefore we incorporating you and all your peoples in your house to be part of the United States Union, meaning that whether it's French and Dutch or Dutch and French, Spain, and whatever the case is, the bottom line is that's what happened in Louisiana. You feel me? Everything was done on paper. It was just paper genocide. And I give you a source, National Constitution Center, Treaty text excerpt. Let us go into Haiti's role, the role of Haiti, why the Caribbean matters for the U.S. map. France's attempt to restore control over Saint Dominique collapses with devastating losses. Without Saint Dominique as the Caribbean engine, Louisiana becomes less useful for Napoleon, all right, contributing to the decision to sell the Louisiana Purchase, all right? So, teaching point, learning, what am I saying here in layman terms? The Caribbean Revolution and war strongly shaped continental North American expansion, okay? Let's go into Florida. Florida, Spain to the United States. So as you can see, everything is being transferred on paper. All right, hold on for a second. I'm getting a note from this TikTok joint. Give me a second. Good, here we go. All right. Module 7, Florida, Spain to the United States. Florida changed hands during the Imperial Wars, Spain to Britain, and ultimately transferred to the United States through the Adams-Onis Treaty of 1819. I'm going to repeat that again. Florida changed hands during the Imperial Wars, Spain, Britain, and ultimately transferred to the U.S. through Adams-Onis Treaty 1817. It was not part of the United States. Okay? Adams-Onis Treaty 1819, cession language. Let me give you an excerpt. It says in Article 2, short excerpt, His Catholic Majesty cedes to the United States in full property and sovereignty East and West Florida. Like I said before, everything is being done on paper behind closed doors, and all of a sudden they make an announcement, we own it. And it seemed like our people had nothing to do with it. Okay? And I give you a source. Teaching point here. This is a state-to-state cession, right? It transferred sovereignty between Spain and the U.S. It does not represent original indigenous nations consenting to U.S. jurisdiction. So all this time, our people are still resisting, our people are still fighting, because those things are done behind closed doors, and then you come and make a public announcement. We own this, we own that, we own the East, we own the West of Florida. All right. Module 8, Mexico and California War. Then treaty borders, 1848. The Mexican-American War ends with the Treaty of Guadalupe, Hidalgo, 1848. Rather than listing every territory ceded, the treaty sets a boundary line. The result in the Mexican cession, including California and much of the Southwest. All that was not part of the United States. So when I hear people talking today, what is y'all talking about? You don't know what exactly is the United States. Because the truth of the matter is the only thing that's the United States is Washington, D.C., and within a 10-mile radius of that, and Puerto Rico, Guam, and its territories, that's it. On paper. Nothing else is part of the United States. Everything else became what is now known as the continental United States of America. But all that's only done in theory, only on paper. So explain to me, how can you say or know exactly who the United States belong to? And telling people that are actually indigenous that they are not from this land, or they are not supposed to be in this land. That's how I know something is wrong with a lot of people mentally. Because you have a colonial mindset. I will never, under any circumstances, call the United States America. I will not disrespect my ancestors like that. I walk in honor and respect for them, because they didn't give any consent to sell our land to no foreign colonizers. They didn't do that. And I'm not going to honor that. All right, so y'all could go ahead and sell your soul, sell your birthrights. I don't care what y'all do. But if I got to go into flesh, let me go into flesh. But I always want to stay in grace with my ancestors. And I'm going to leave it as that. Let us go next into treaty language that did work. All right. A key feature is the treaty's boundary description, Article 5, in that same treaty, right? This boundary, together with other provisions, establishes which lands move under U.S. jurisdiction. A colonial foreign power. Remember what they did in the court case, 1823? Johnson versus McIntosh, what did they say? This is the new form of discovery. For the discovering, the occupier. But we out here calling ourselves United States citizens. Anyway, I'm going to leave that alone. That might just go over some people's heads. All right. Guadalupe. Hidalgo, 1848, Article 5, short excerpt. The boundary line between two republics shall commence in the Gulf of Mexico. Teaching point, lesson learned. The sovereignty transfer is between nation states. We, the original people living within these regions, were not the treaties negotiating equals. My people, wake the hell up. Okay? I'm showing you what happened, what is continuing to happen, and we out here fighting each other. Let us proceed. Let's go to module 9, I think. Let's go to Alaska. All right? Hold on for a second. Oh, yes, the colonizers were dark-skinned. They were people, brown-skinned people like us. Yeah, that's correct. In the very inception of colonization, they didn't hand over the crown to the pale man fully until 1901. But like I said, all that was supposed to happen. That's a whole different lesson. You feel me? But yes, the colonizers that came in 1492, all the way up to the 1700s, King James, King Charles, the first, the second, the third, King George, that was named Georgia after. He was once again a man of color. It were people who looked like us. and their children are still among us today. And you just don't know them. You feel me? Keep that in mind. That's why I tell people, don't call me black. You could keep that. I don't care what y'all say. I ain't black. There's no such thing as a black American. There's no such thing as black people or black indigenous people. Get the hell out of here with that. Okay? Oh, yeah, we consider them kinfolk. Yeah, because once again, they look like us. You see what I'm saying? They came as friends. It's what you call a frenemy. Okay? I think that's the best way to describe them. So let us talk about Alaska right now, right? Alaska and the Russian-American America to the United States in 1867. Before Alaska was a U.S. territory, it belonged to the Russian America, right? Even if it was on the American continent. Russian possession in North America, the U.S. acquired it by treaty in 1867. Alaska Purchase Treaty, 1867. Session language. I'm going to give you an excerpt. I quote, His Majesty the Emperor of all the Russias agrees to cede to the United States all the territory and dominion now possessed. And I give you the source. Avalon Project, Yale Law School text. All right? Lesson learned here. Teaching moments. As with other transfers, empires treated land as transferable by paper treaty, while the original indigenous nations remained on the land and faced a new government without consent. From the very inception of the colonial system is the same thing that they did all the way up in the United States. All right? So this is where the Siberians came from Russia not necessarily during the treaty, but when Russia owned Alaska. You feel me? They were bringing their own people to work into Alaska. That's why when you go look at those treaties, it says, not treaties, but you go look at the census, you go look at House Resolution 331. What does it say? American Indian and Alaska Natives. Because that was the foundation of them bringing them into the U.S. to take our place. These people did not come from the Bering Strait 15, 20, 12,000 years ago. That's a damn lie. They came in the 1700s when Russia owned Alaska. So they are the foundation of becoming Native Americans via that trade route coming from Russia. Don't let nobody fool you. All right. So here we go. With other transfers, empires treated land as transferable by paper treaty. Original people or nations remained on the land and faced a new government without consent. All right. Let's go to, what are we going to now? I think we're going to go to module 10. Module 10. 1830 to present, the U.S. machine of disposition and modern rights, the frameworks. After the U.S. secured paper sovereignty, pay attention now, paper sovereignty across vast regions, land loss often occurred through domestic policy tools, removal, allotment, and administrative control, plus a long history of treaty violations, coercion, and uneven enforcement. So when I tell my people, man, there is a certain way to do things to get back our sovereignty. You have to know what happened. You cannot just jump and start creating nations that has nothing to do with the land. You cannot do that. And literally, people just be like, okay, yeah, it sounds good. It's not going to happen. And I'm saying that respectfully. You cannot undo what you don't know what's done. I'm going to repeat that. You cannot undo if you don't know what was done. I'm giving you the blueprint of what happened and how we're supposed to move forward as a people, because it was intercontinental. These people came together and took our shit, but y'all want to be as individuals to try to get it back. Let it make sense. Let it make sense. That's why I don't deal with certain people, man, because I know it's just a waste of time, and I'm not here to waste my time. So I'm going to read that again. After the U.S. secured paper sovereignty, what did they do first? They secured paper sovereignty across vast regions. Land lost often occurred through domestic policies and tools, removal allotments, and administrative control, plus a long history of treaty violations, coercion, and uneven enforcement. You did. Let's go to A. Removal, 1830. Coercive relocation through treaty making pressure. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 authorizes the president to negotiate removal treaties that relocate original indigenous nations and people west of Mississippi, creating enormous displacements and opening eastern lands to settlers via expansion. Okay? That is what happened. All right, cool. Let us proceed. Indian Removal Act of 1830. I'm going to give you an excerpt from that. And I quote, authorized the president to negotiate removal treaties with Indian tribes living east of Mississippi River. Source, U.S. National Archives, milestone document page. Let's go to B. Boom. Here we go. Osio, welcome to the build. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome to the build. Let's go to B. Allotment, 1887. Break tribal land into individual parcels and sell surplus. The General Allotment Act, the Dawes Act of 1887, it breaks up communal reservation land into individual allotments. So all these plots of land or these pockets of land that our people were living in, you feel me? They were considered reservations. But because of the Dawes Act of 1877, they were broken up into land allotments that later become community, different neighborhoods and all this different stuff, right? After allotments, remaining land is often treated as surplus. You hear that? Remaining land was left as surplus and opened to non-Indian settlement, causing massive land loss. So they opened up the door where if you're not an Indian, you could just come buy land. That's when they were having the influx of those Slavs. They were already in the Americas from the very early 1500s. They came in as slaves. A lot of these Caucasians, but they will not tell you that. There's a reason why there's no such thing as a White History Month. But they started bringing in an influx through not just Ellis Island, but Los Angeles, the Asians, Chinese, all the Japanese, and all these people that got reparations for bringing them into the Americas to replace us from a population control perspective or population replacement perspective by getting land and taking those titles from our people, intermarrying into indigenous communities, the women, because the land and inheritance was handed down through the women. So therefore, the father take control. Now she take the last name of the father. Guess what? Now he become the one that says, well, this is ours. So the maternal line loses the allodial ownership of the land, and now it's paternal. Do y'all see all of that happening and how it happened? It was by design, people. We cannot just be out here without a plan. Emotions ain't going to change a damn thing. Cursing Africans ain't going to change nothing. Cursing Native Americans ain't going to change nothing. Even cursing some people from the Caribbean that's lost is not going to change anything. Even cursing people in the United States that's lost is not going to change anything. We have to be structured. We have to be organized. We have to make sure that our documents are up to par. That's why I tell people, I do this on a whole different level. I know what to do. How long I've been saying that? All right, let's proceed. Here we go. The Dawes Act, 1887, the summary, short excerpt. Breaking up reservations and tribal lands by granting land allotments to individual American Indians. They did that, but they opened up the door and started selling the land to non-Indian people as well. All right. So here's the deal. Okay. So they reserved certain land. They brought the Alaska Natives into the United States, having them as the natives of the land, natives, not American Indians, but natives as the land. All right, natives of the land, because they were adopted. That's what native means. A denizen, one who's adopted by a country. They were adopted. While the American Indians, their land, it became individualized and no longer considered a reservation. Do y'all get the trick? I'm going to give you an example of that. The project is a reservation. It's just Indians living in the projects, reclassified and mislabeled as Black or African American without federal recognition. I hope I could say that the same way I just said it again. Okay? I'm going to say it again. And let me see if I could say it the same way I just said it. Let's say that again. All right? So they reserved certain land for Native Americans that they brought in from Alaska. All right? Put them on the land. Only, once again, only for commercial purposes. Because now they're able to open up casinos. Casinos is nothing but just a legalized system to funnel money. That's all it is. Making you think that Native Americans are getting it. They ain't getting a damn thing. And they know that as well. So they cannot come play me with the concept, well, we on reservations and we got our own section and we got casinos. You ain't got no damn casinos. Shut the hell up. Because you're not the one getting the money. Okay? You're not the one getting the money. But what they did do was they maintained those as the federally recognized reservations. And then the real Indians, all right, their land that got not necessarily separated, they just lost the title of being reservations. And they became neighborhoods. They became communities. But all those are reservations. You feel me? But none federally recognized. And then putting our people in projects in the hood. That is a reservation. But it's a non-federal recognized reservation without the benefits. Pay attention to what happened. All right? So let us rock. So all the people out here in the hood calling themselves Black and African American and the N-word, guess what? Those are American Indians. The wild Indians, they couldn't really control. Let us go to C. Boom. Courts and administration. Occupancy versus full title. That's very important. All right? Courts and administration. Occupancy versus full title. Discovery doctrine in the U.S. Remember the court case. Go look it up. Okay? Go look it up. All right? The court case, Johnson versus McIntosh. It helps justify federal control over how original indigenous land title can be extinguished. So that's how our people were losing the allodial title of the land, my people. Do you get it now? Greetings, YouTube. Greetings, TikTok. Welcome to the build. Do y'all get it now? It was through that court case. That is what changed the dynamics of owning land and having the allodial titles and the patents of the land. And that court case has never been repealed. Johnson versus McIntosh. It helps justify federal control on how original indigenous land, the titles, can be extinguished over time. And then here comes the litigation. Here comes the agency policies and the local enforcement, you feel me? Frequently narrowed indigenous control over the land and resources and governance. I'm showing y'all what happened all the way from 1492, and I'm bringing you up to into the US. I mean, I could have actually gone a little deeper, but I didn't want to go into all the individual battles and wars and all of that. I'm giving you an overscope of what happened to our people and why we are in the situation that we're in right now. Let us go to D. D. Modern rights framework, international and regional. Modern declarations, articles, indigenous rights as human rights and collective rights, but they usually operate as basically an interpretive or persuasive authority rather than self-executing domestic law. Then you will have such as UNDRIP, short excerpts, adopts the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. And then we have the source, United Nations documents, UNDRIP. We also have ADRIP, which was given to us in 2016, American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. All right. We have that as well. Now, here's the thing. All these declarations are not legally binding because the United States makes sure that they are not legally binding, my people. How many, I hear everybody always talking about the international court. How many people know that there's also the Inter-American Court? That is based in, I think in, what is it? Is it in Colombia or is it in one of them? But there's the Inter-American Court. How come we don't hear nobody talking about that? That's why I tell people there's levels to this. The only sad part about it is the United States does not respect the jurisdiction of the Inter-American Court. So it shows you again the mentality of the colonizer. They don't play by the rules, but y'all really think they're out here trying to be your friend. When are you going to learn, my people? Explain that to me. When are you going to learn? Or somebody asked, where are you from? Oh, I was born in Dominica. All right. Let's proceed. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to another document because I also have to put this in perspective because it's a lot of that information out here on the internet. Greetings. Welcome to the build. Good afternoon. Welcome to the build. All right. So what are we going to do now? We're going to talk about the Moroccan Treaty because a lot of times, you know, we let's put this in perspective, man. We got to stop playing the games. All right. We got to stop playing the games. So let me just give you a synopsis of that, what it means, and break it down. All right. So here we are. The Moroccan Treaty. And why is all of this important? It's important because it all ties into where we are and where we stand as indigenous people of the Americas. Okay? This has always been intercontinental. It has never been individualized from the perspective of the colonizers. They came to take over the Americas. You did. They didn't come to take one country. They came to take the entire continent. We cannot individualize this war. We have to come together as a collective and reinstate and put on record. How was it done? You see, everything was done through what? Paper. Everything was done through paper. That's why they say the pen is mightier than the sword, right? So let's get into the Moroccan Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1787 to 1787. 1786, pardon me, to 1787. Now, this is the purpose of this part of the lesson. This lesson explains the historical and legal context of the Moroccan American Empire, Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and demonstrate clearly and factually, not opinion, factually, that the treaty was commercial and diplomatic in nature and not territorial. I am tired of people trying to tell me that this is Morocco, this is all Moroccan, the maxim and all that stuff, man. Stop. Remember, the 1400s, the Iberian colonizers came. Y'all keep missing that part. So stay focused, people. Stay focused. There's going to be many forms of division. It may result in physical war because we have colonial power still on our indigenous lands, causing confusion. Now, take it to mean what you want. I'm just saying it is what it is. Everything will come into fruition. It will manifest. Okay? So let us go one. What the treaty is. The Moroccan-American Treaty, Treaty of Peace and Friendship, was signed in 1787 and ratified by the United States in 1787. It established formal diplomatic and commercial relations between the newly independent United States and the Sultan or the Sultanate of Morocco. Number two, why the treaty happened. Why the treaty happened. After the American Revolution, the United States needed international recognition and protection for its merchant ships. Morocco recognized the U.S. independence in 1777 and opened its ports to American vessels. Number three, what the treaty says. The treaty says, the treaty establishes peace, protection of ships and sailors, respect for property, and rules for commerce. It does not address land, territory, or sovereignty. There was no time ever Morocco owned America. Stop the foolishness. I just showed you how the entire British Empire owned the continent on paper. And that's the only way they own it today. They don't, because we did not give our consent. So therefore, that only exists on paper. But here's the thing, our people were tricked. So we're living the lie, but we don't know we're living a lie. You did. So therefore, the treaty establishes peace, protection of ships and sailors, respect for property, and rules for commerce. It does not address land, territory, or sovereignty. Number four, what the treaty does not say. The treaty does not transfer land, claim territories, or assert Moroccan or ownership of America. Go show it to me. Why was Morocco involved? Morocco sought trade and diplomacy, not colonization. Morocco had nothing to do with the colonization. They wanted to do trade and diplomacy. All right. Number six, relationship to colonization. The treaty is not part of the European colonization treaties and did not affect indigenous land rights. All right. Let's go into number seven. Addressing the misconceptions. Claims that Morocco owned America are not supported by historical or legal evidence in any shape or form based on my extensive research. Show me otherwise. Show it to me in a court law. Show it to me in the Supreme Court. Show it to me in any credible historical documents. It doesn't exist. Number eight, legal standing. The treaty governs diplomacy and commerce only. That's all it is. Number nine, moral of this particular aspect or side of the lesson. The treaty demonstrates peaceful international relations, not territorial dominance. Number 10, final teaching statement of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. The Moroccan-American Treaty of Peace and Friendship was commercial and diplomatic, not colonial ownership of America. You see, everybody's always making an attempt to pull indigenous people and our lands into other jurisdictions and make our people victims of the colonial system. If y'all want to fall for that, go ahead. By all means, do what you got to do. I cannot tell you what to do. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to teach you the information. And I don't care about people's personal emotions. You could get mad if you want to. I'm just speaking the damn truth. You did. Oh, you guys are absolutely welcome. So this concludes the lesson. You feel me? So I always say, do your own due diligence. Do your own due diligence. All right? That's what I always say. Maybe there's something I may have missed. I don't know. But based on my extensive research, all right, I took you all the way from 1492 all the way into the U.S. and gave you the transition of how this happened. Not at one point our people ceded our sovereignty to any foreign corporation. Not one at one time. Our people, once again, gave up their sovereignty or their land. All of that is implied and on paper only. Paper genocide, paper contracts, paper agreements, paper covenants. And then they had certain key people in place to tell the people, well, yeah, that's a good deal. Let's make it happen. But our people never consented to that. So what am I saying overall? That our people are still tied to the land. But we have been contracted on paper. It's two different things. You have the de facto aspect of things and you have the de jure aspect of things. From a de jure perspective, our people are still tied organically to the land, and we are the only lawful people on the land. From a de facto perspective, the colonizer is the one that shows the legal authority and jurisdiction of the people who could only make law on the land. Do y'all see the difference? So it had to be taught. It had to be coerced. So now it became our reality. Yes, we were robbed. So when I tell people there's levels to this restoration, I'm not just saying it because I want to have conversations. No, I'm saying it because I know what needs to be done. I'm not telling you I think. I know what needs to be done. But it has to be intercontinental. And what drives me, well, I'm not going to say drive me crazy because I rescind that. You know what I mean? I'm going to send that back to the trash bin it came from because ain't nothing could drive me crazy. But what bothers me is this. Our people think that by separating ourselves from each other, we are going to win. When the colonizers showed you and told you, no, they had to come together. And not just individuals. I'm talking about nations. Nations came together as one to take everything we had. But y'all want to stay separated to get back everything we had. Let it make sense. Let it make sense. I'm going to repeat that. They came together. All the nations, they're all related. The left wing, the right wing, trust me, they are the descendants of the Scots, the British, the German, the Irish, all the people, the Netherlands, all the people who came. All the people who came. Okay? They make you think that they're fighting each other, when the truth of the matter is the ultimate goal is to create the illusion and keep the original people distracted. So they did what they had to do. Why do you think the Inter-American Court, that literally all the other countries in America, they acknowledge? The United States is the only one that don't acknowledge it. But those are the same people you think that's going to give you something. Let it make sense. Do y'all really know what's going on? Or do you think you know what's going on? And I'm not here to tell people I know more than you. That's not what I'm here to say. Okay? All right? Hold on for a second. Let me just get back here. They got our people going to jail as a form of control. The miseducation as a form of control. All right? You feel me? It's just so much. Look at TikTok. It's just distractions. The internet is just distractions. They give us ice, just distractions. That's what it's all about. And here's the funny thing about it, right? Right now, Mother Earth is literally building to unite and bring forth the righteous consciousness. So guess what they're doing? They mirror everything that's in the spiritual realm. So what they're doing, they are pushing a one world system, but it's not governed on righteousness. They're forcing you to get their real IDs. What do you think they're doing that? Tying you back into another contract. So how do you think you're going to win individually? Explain that to me. Is it because of egos? I don't know what it is. Is it because of hate? Somebody explain it to me, please. Because sometimes I'm a man that's very, very seldomly lost for words. But when it comes to that, I'm lost for words, honestly. Because I just can't fathom how people cannot just see what's going on and what's going to happen. It has to happen through the collective and with the collective. The individuals who violated every single treaty with our ancestors, you think that they're going to give us something. The same system that told indigenous people, or original indigenous people, that they came from Africa, you think they're going to do something so we could gain our autonomy, so we could gain our sovereignty? Y'all really think that? Man. Oh, wow. And some people may say, well, Chief, if you know all of this, then why are you in the US? I don't have a choice. The ancestors sent me here to do this. You may think it sounds crazy, but you know when the allegorical Jesus or Yeshua said in the Bible, all right, that it's not my will, but thy will. He didn't want to be crucified. He didn't want to do that. But he was doing the will of the Father on the collective of the people. And I'm going through the same thing. Because I have to be in the belly of the beast to put a glitch in the matrix. You did. So my people, just don't listen, but hear me well. We cannot do it individually. We cannot do it being separated. At some point, we have to learn to put our differences, put it aside. At least know those that are for real and genuine about this. Because the righteous ones, we are the only ones that's going to make this happen. We don't have to wait for other people. We could start doing what we have to do. First, it starts from the spiritual realm. What does that mean? Mental. What does that transform to? Doing the paperwork. Putting things. Do you see the same way? That's why I went in detail to show you what happened in 1492 up to the present. I showed you that it was the pen that was mightier than the sword. So that's our sword. It's the pen. You feel me? The pen. Once we apply the pen, then we do the same thing that they did. You're not honoring that? All right, cool. Then we got to do what we got to do. You see, you see how things was done? I'm showing you how to undo it without, posing, a threat, so to speak, because I'm not making any threats. I'm speaking of decolonization of indigenous people. And that's supported by international law, even if the US don't recognize it, because they are rogues, they are tyrants, they are colonizers. Why would they acknowledge it? But y'all really think they have the best interest of indigenous people, original indigenous people? No, they don't. Because they know we're the only ones that could stop them from doing what they're doing. We're the only ones that could stop. We are the only ones that could let them step down. They know that. That's why they have to make sure our people are called everything in the book except who they truly are. Because you sold your birthright. And some of you are still selling it because you're looking for a bag. So it's going to take work. All right? It is going to take work. So with that being said, I'm about to conclude this build, right? For those of you who want the treaties that I actually uploaded on the website, on the Republic, you could go look it up. All right? Let me see if I could show you guys on YouTube. Let me see something. Oh, no, that's something else I created. Oh, where is it at? Doom, 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 doom. Man, I don't know where I got that. One mind. Let me see. That's where it is. So for YouTube, okay, this is the website. I have, if you go all the way on the Republic ship section of the website, you'll see I have 15 treaties that I uploaded up in there. So, go check it out. Like I said, man, be part of the Republic. Let's do what we got to do. I'm about to post that on TikTok. All right, www.ongwehongwe.org. Nobody said it's going to happen overnight. We got to stop thinking that. All right? It's not going to happen overnight, people. We have to put in the work. We have to put in the work. Let me see how I could put that on TikTok. Let me see if there's a way I could put that in the chat. I may have to get off here for a second. Give me a second. But I'm about to conclude the build. I want to thank y'all for being a part of this lesson, man. For those of you that's on TikTok right now, the recording of that lesson is actually on YouTube because I'm going live. So that's where you're able to see that. It's not going to be any recaps on TikTok. I don't like the fact that TikTok just, when you do recaps, they want to give you strikes and all that. I ain't got time for all of that, man. So give me a second. Let me just www.ongwehongwe.org. So I also put the website on TikTok, all right? So you could go ahead and get that done. Go to the website, download the treaties, and they're yours as a gift. All right. I uploaded what, 15 of them, and I got over 200 and something. So I promised every day I will upload at least 10 or 15 each upload. All right, until I get through all 200 and whatever treaties that I got that was signed. Of course, a lot of those treaties were ratified, but you'll still have an inclination as to what happened to those treaties. And I promise you, everybody's always talking about Cherokee and Choctaw and Chickasaw and all the main so-called tribes. Let me tell you something. There are so many tribes that you probably never even heard the name. Okay? So once you have done your genealogy, you will realize that in that particular area, in such and such a time, those were the tribes that was actually there. All right? So you will have an inclination. Okay, cool. Those were my peoples. And that's the tribe that they came from specifically, and not just making general assertions. All right. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to truly, again, put the declarations there for everybody so that they could use it. Like I said, I have most of them, if not all, and I'll make sure you guys have access to them. All right. Also, the Republic is established to come together as the collective and start working together as we, the original people of the Americas. So thank you for being a part of the build. I'm glad I was able to figure this out and doing this on YouTube and TikTok at the same time. So I was literally on 2 phones, 2 computers. You know what I mean? You guys are absolutely welcome. 2 phones, 2 computers, putting in that work because I love doing what I do. All right. So thank you. I may or may not do another live later, but for now, I'm going to chill, relax myself. I'm going to make me some soup. And I'm going to continue to give thanks and honor and respect to our ancestors, you know, for giving me the insight, giving me the ability to articulate things the way that they have showed me how to do those things. You know what I mean? And just being able to see exactly what happened, put the pieces of the puzzle together, and still have a solution to restore our people. And I've told you that since what, 2013, 2014, I've been saying that on YouTube. I was sent to restore our people. All right, everything is already in place. We are building and we're making things happen the way it's supposed to. All right, so thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your 24. Or before I go, I just want to touch on this real quick, going back to just the land patents, right? I think I put a lesson together just dealing with that. So I have it somewhere in my files, because I have a lot of lessons that I've already prepared, right? But I'll look for it, and then I'll try to see if I can go more in detail and answer more questions when it comes to land patents and all those things and deeds and, you know, whatever the case is. Even if you have the land patent and don't have the deed, there's still ways to look into things to see if you still have some type of legal or lawful, you know, way of, you know, trying to get some of that back. It depends on exactly what happened with the deed. That is the key to know that information. All right. So it says, and no echo this time. All right. So there's no echo. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. So, hey, thank you for all the follow. Thank you for sharing. YouTube, I love y'all. TikTok, I love y'all. Let me get some rest. Let me meditate a little bit. If the ancestors, you know, if it's their will to do another joint, then I'll do it. All right. But I definitely wanted to go in detail today, take you all the way back to 1492 and bring you into what's happening in the US at the present moment. Okay. So as we speak, to summarize things, all right. You guys are absolutely welcome. To summarize things, right? Right now, as we speak in the US literally only have jurisdiction over our people on paper. On paper. Okay? On paper. Pay attention to what I'm saying. Via that court case, Johnson versus McIntosh. I gave it to you guys. Go look it up. 1823, I think it was. They only own us on paper. It's in theory. But they don't own us physically. They only own the land in theory, but they don't own the land physically. I know the ways, my people. I know the hows. I keep telling y'all, walk with your brother. Let's make this happen. All right? Peace and love. I'm going to stop sharing on YouTube. Boom. Go to YouTube. I'm going to end the live. YouTube, most likely I'll see you guys later. TikTok, most likely I'll see you guys later. All right, peace and love. Thank you. All right, cool. And that